So we thought it'd be good today, a wee bit of a season recap. We'll go through the start of the season up until this point, how I think it's going to go in the future. We'll go into a wee bit about what we want to see in the January transfer window, but I think the perfect starting point, we could go on about Beale's last season.
His demise.
But at the end of the day, his demise really just started when he ended up getting into the transfer window. That period of time where the board basically gave him full control of the recruitment process. They gave him control over who he signs, how much for, pretty much everything. What a recruitment director or somebody like that would have, a director of football, all of their responsibilities, and to be honest, it was a complete fucking disaster.
Well, Beale promised us the world, you know what I mean, in the summer, and I think a lot of the Rangers fans, obviously not all Rangers fans, but a lot of us were on board because we were like, we knew we needed a clear out, and we got a clear out more or less, you know what I mean, and we brought in a lot of new faces, but unfortunately they got off to the worst possible start, but we were promised big plans in the summer. But even, I mean, think back to the pre-season, which seems so long ago. I mean, this is like the craziest first half of the season I can remember for quite some time. It just seems like it's been topsy-turvy, up and down, don't know where we're going. We're improving, we play well one game, and then the next game we're like, we're hopeless.
Well, the thing is about pre-season, right? So a common theme in that first part of the season, and we're a broken record at the start, was what's our system, what's our identity, what are we trying to do during any game whatsoever, and it got me thinking, like, what the fuck have we been doing? Were we doing hill runs or pre-season like they did in the fucking 80s? Like, what have we been doing? There seemed to be nothing for the fans to go, right, that's where he's wanting to go to, that's where he's wanting to kind of build the team. Because at the end of the day, if we just saw an end point as fans, in terms of, right, I see what Beale's trying to do, we're way off it, but at least
we're moving towards
it, and he's trying to put a system in place. Let's say, for example, if it was like kind of a system where it's like all out attack with using inverted fullback, blah, just a random style of play, or if it was like a heavy counter attacking style of play, you could, as long as fans had an end point, then we could more or less judge how Beale's performing better.
That's true, man. If we had half an identity at the start of the season, I think the pressure on Beale wouldn't have been quite as much. I'll tell you what as well, see if a couple of the players who we'd signed in the summer had looked like they had something about themselves as well. I think, again, the pressure wouldn't have been as much, but like you say, we'd no clear system of play, and none of the players hit the ground running. Obviously, going back to pre-season, we were like, hard to judge them on pre-season. The games almost mean nothing. They're never the most enjoyable games to watch, you know what I mean? There's the first game of the season is where you go, right, here it's
this is what we're trying to do.
This is what we're, and then we go to Clement and lose 1-0 and get after the worst possible start.
Because the thing is, like, you hear it all the time, especially with young managers. This manager comes in, you heard it with Arteta. They come in, they had a pretty shite first season, but the fans knew what he was trying to do, and you hear the term like project manager. He's like a project. And I think that's what the Rangers board thought they were going to get for Beale, but at the end of the day, when you don't see what that project is, if you don't see what we're trying to do, what the project is, what the end goal is, how we're trying to get there, you've nothing. There's nothing that will save him when stuff goes tits up. The way the likes of Arteta did, where the fans kind of knew there was a debate around Arteta and Arteta out, but the fans you had fans that were Arteta in because they went, we kind of know what he's trying to do here. That's what we want to see, so we should give him like more time, like, to implement that. And I'm not saying that would have worked, obviously, with Beale.
Nah, the biggest problem here is you don't get time. You know what I mean? It's been a one-horse race for the last 10 years. Ultimately, you know what I mean? We won the title under Gerrard, but let's be honest, we've been miles off it. Obviously, what's went on, over the last number of years, we have been miles off it, and we never had any more time to sacrifice, you know what I mean? We never had time to go, let's just stick with Beale, and I think we see it when he goes, Clement comes in, and things start to change, but we're jumping the gun.
Aye. That's it. The main problem for me was when fans during that first Old Firm saw almost a complete polar opposite performance to any of the games before that. In a sense, you were going attacking against teams, but Beale's biggest mistake was first going to Ibrox and thinking, right, we're going to sit back and we're going to try and hit them on the counter. Like, I've never...
That's, for me, that's when
Ibrox.
Beale nailed his coffin shut.
Aye, 100%.
And that was unforgivable, honestly, because there's one thing you can see. If we went out in that game and we took it to Celtic, there was fight, there was something about us that day, but we literally just lay down and let them walk our attack as he sat as
and
deep.
you can't see with players like Kyogo who worked well getting in behind defences, and obviously gone for a manager that was all out attack constantly all the time. Well, like, they done well against the teams that were sitting middle, but why would you get into an Old Firm and go, you know what we'll do? We'll drop off, we'll try and sit with a low block and
at
hit
Ibrox
the
as
counter.
well.
At Ibrox. I wouldn't do that at Parkhead, never mind at Ibrox.
It's the ultimate recipe to turn the fans against you, and that's exactly what happened.
Aye, especially when the signs were there, and we've said this for a couple of seasons now, the signs were there during that game for Beale to turn around and say, right, well, the fans have always been asking us to, like, press fuck out of the Celtic back four, who have proven time and time again that there's a mistake in that back four, and they don't like being pressed, they don't like being pressed quickly, they don't like being hunted down in packs. If that Rangers team went out, done that, and got beat, there'd have been a case to be made to say, right, well, we know the way he was trying to do, even all firm loss always unforgivable, right? But you'd at least turn around and says, right, well, he was could have put it down to player mistake, because he went out there and went, right, we're going to have a fucking go, we're going to press fuck out, and we're going to try and force mistakes all the time. But that never happened. He sat back, he let them play, he let them do what they wanted to do, play their game plan, and it was like, that time, it was like Celtic were playing against any other team in the league.
It wasn't meant to be for Beale, I know, because obviously when Beale was in charge as well, I mean, we were constantly asking the question, like, we've went and signed Danilo, why is he not getting a chance? And he was sitting with Dessers week in and week out, and I mean, we know what Dessers is capable of now. I mean, still he's a bit of a fucking enigma, to be honest, because he does the goal against Betis, he's had a couple of good, I mean, two probably the best passes of the season. One for, was it Sima in the Europa League? I think it was. A class through ball, and then I think for McCausland at the weekend, he's pulled this out the bag, but I think that kind of shot Beale in the foot as well, because first of all, we weren't creating enough chances. You see the clear difference in styles between how he had us playing and how Clement has us playing the new, because at least when we're no firing on all cylinders, I think, at least when we've no been firing in all cylinders under Clement, at least we're still creating chances. But Beale never even gave you that bit of hope to cling on to, and it was all for the pre-season onwards, right? It was all about the complete lack of performance. Because there was a few results that kind of sealed the deal. Obviously, you start off with the Kilmarnock one, you've got the Old Firm, you've got the Aberdeen one, you've got players, your players are getting booed after part at half time, but the common theme uniting the whole Beale tenure was just the complete lack of performance. There was no level to our performance whatsoever. There was nothing to us. You know, at least I think we've got a bit of bite to us now. At least you've got to have to qualify for the knockouts in Europe, go to Spain, beat Betis. I mean, you've got to have a bit of something to.
Well, that's the thing. Like, moving on to when Clement actually came in. As you said, the one thing that completely changed was, I think, under the circumstances, we said at that time, well, all we need to do is for Clement to come in, if he can get us up to this point of the season, we're at right now with as many points as we possibly can, and get to January and we'll push on for there. I think like he's well exceeded the expectations, considering obviously no look at the Old Firm, but considering we were undefeated up until the point of the Old Firm. Also, we had a trophy, like League Cup first silverware of the season. That's a big game that needs to be navigated, and most of the time out with Europe domestically, this Rangers team over the years, other than the 55 season, have struggled in the big games. We've always been out against Aberdeen in the semi-final and like slipped them up in these high pressure domestic games. Obviously Rangers in Europe's just a completely different, it's almost like you're talking about it's a completely separate team. But at the end of the day, Betis is still like a big game that you still need to put in the work to overcome. It was still a huge high pressure game, and we came through that as well. So you've all got to count that, and then the fact that we went through probably December, which is no doubt probably one of the hardest months to navigate over the course of the season, just because of the density of the games. So in my opinion, like up until now, you can't really ask for much more for Clement, and to be honest, to me, when you look at the signings that we had and the way they were playing and the way that team was playing, I think a couple of players like in interviews said stuff like we kind of trust each other more, stuff like, I don't know the exact line, but it was like a sense of they kind of trust each other a bit more. Obviously with the way we're playing the now, that you can still see in the style of in the play that there are players that are much less trusted than other players. You can just see with the way we play, and the game kind of gets played round about them, the likes of Sam Lammers. I think Danilo was a victim of that at the start, because they weren't sure. Obviously Dessers is a victim of that now, in a sense of a lot of the time I feel like Dessers is trying too hard to get involved in the game because he's not really finding as much supply, maybe down to trust for other players. But at the end of the day, there was players now, very fewer players now, that are lacking that trust than there was at the start of the season, where I don't think MD seemed to trust.
I think the problem with trust is it's less a problem with trust and more a problem with consistency, because I think when you mentioned Dessers' name, right, I'm like, I think he had a decent game at the weekend there as well, so I'm thinking there's a level to him. Alright, he never scored, he's clearly no an out and out finisher, which is a big problem.
My only issue,
it's a big problem for us, don't it?
My only issue with like Dessers, and I'm firmly in the camp where he's nowhere near a Rangers player, and the reason for that is it's in previous seasons a striker could get away with, Morelos was good at this, a striker could get away with not necessarily finishing all the time, but when you punt that ball up the park, when you're under heat, you punt that ball up the park, you could rely on Morelos to do a damn good job at taking that ball down and try to shield it and get us up the park. For me, Dessers...
But that's what I'm talking about, the consistency level, because I think about Dessers and the Old Firm, and honestly I was speaking to somebody about this as well, and I was saying whenever the ball went up to Dessers, he was taking a touch, and the ball was... He's not just taking a bad touch, his first touch was horrendous and there was no ability for him to hold the ball up, right? But then at the weekend he seemed to have improved on that a bit more, but I can't... It's hard to go week by week as a fan, especially when you're halfway into the season. You've got... The title race could be on going into the latter part of the season. You've got European football to navigate, and I'm going week by week thinking what Dessers is going to show up today, the one who can hold it in, the one who's got a first touch, or the one who's completely mince. That's no good. It can't be good for Clement either.
No, 100%, because I mean that'll be why we've brought in the likes of Silva, and we're probably and hopefully we'll bring in the likes of Shanklin, because at the end of the day, they two players coming in, one was once touted at 35 million quid, right? And he was scouted by a top level team and ended up signed. So the boy's got ability, regardless of where he's at the now and where his belief is in his cell and his confidence levels. The boy's got ability. Shanklin, they're all like great finisher in the league. He's a no-brainer, like for me, but that to me just says that like Dessers, like, he's nowhere near a Rangers player, because if, at the end of the day, they two signings coming in would completely eliminate him for any game for the rest of the season.
Aye.
Like, he would be nowhere near the team. If you're looking at Shankland, Silva, he would be not even touching the bench.
Another big thing about the Clement era as well is, I think Clement come in the door and he'd no connections, you know what I mean? He wasn't people's pal, whereas Beale might have been because he had connections there prior, you know what I mean? But Clement strikes me as kind of no nonsense, a proper manager. He comes in the door,
he's big, baldy,
conducts
and
himself conducts himself very well in front of the media as well. Obviously his English isn't 100%, but I would say that's probably better than having Beale, who'd blabbered on a lot of pish consistently, who was honestly unbearable at the time. To be the later into Beale's tenure at Goatman, the more unbearable it became to listen to the guy. You know what I mean?
It got to the point, I love post-match interviews and stuff like that, but it came to the point where you actively had to avoid them, because you're like, I'm only going to get unbelievably pissed off. Just with the pure,
because he was saying a whole lot of nothing,
car
to be honest.
patter, it was constant beating around the bush. And the thing about Beale is as well, compared to Clement, when Beale came in the door, he done a good job of hyping up fans in terms of, like, well, the way he talked, what he was promising, what he says he wanted to do.
You better deliver, man.
At the end of the day, he never delivered.
I know.
And the thing about Beale as well is he would never come out and just go, right, I've got it wrong, we need to reassess.
Whereas I think Clement done the complete opposite. He's like, look, first and foremost, don't have a magic wand. Second, this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon, it's a long season. And I think that's set Clement up for success, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? He's like, bear with me, like, I'm no going to deliver results overnight.
He ended up delivering results overnight.
Exactly. But he's under pressure because he's the Rangers manager, the pressure that comes with the job. So he's no went and added extra pressure over and above that by coming out and say, I'll deliver this by Christmas, we'll be top of the league, we're going to do this, we're going. No, he's like, no, it takes time, it's a marathon. Let's stick it through to the end of the season. You know what I mean? Be in the title race as the season's closing in, and I think that's what we can expect for Clement. And tactically, obviously things are different for a chance creation level. Things are different. I would say it's the tempo, the speedier plays better, but also he backs himself, I think, whereas Beale doesn't. I mean, look at that decision. I think it was in Europe. He whips off Cantwell half an hour into the game. Like, doesn't matter.
It's almost like he was compensating for something, Beale, like some sort of not like a flaw, but a lack of confidence that he could execute.
But he'd never been in a big job, mate.
Exactly.
He'd been a coach, you know what I mean? So, to be fair, it was a lot to handle.
A great coach, to be fair, like an outstanding
and he
coach.
Might go on to be a great manager as well, but the pressure that comes with being the Rangers manager was clearly too much for him to handle at the time, whereas Clement has got that experience, he's got experience winning, first and foremost, being at the head of a big club, you know what I mean, and that pays dividends, you know what I mean. So things have certainly improved under Clement, there's no doubt about it, but we're still expecting more. And what I would think and expect for the second half of the season is that we need to be more consistent. We definitely do need to be more consistent.
Is as well, like, I mean, there's a couple of positions I'd like to see us bulk up in left back, because Barisic is going to go at the end of the season. Can you see him
if he doesn't go in January?
We've still got, like, we've got the squad to bulk up to compensate for the injury list. Obviously, we're starting to see, like, some squaring up in terms of forward players. We're getting linked with a lot of them now.
But I mean, look, Dowell comes back in as well and looks a player.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
And bear in mind, we've still got, like, Raskins just come back up.
Ryan Jacks to come back.
We've yet to see Cifuentes under Clement, like, properly, to see what he can, because there's ability in Cifuentes.
And if these players can make improvements the way, like Yilmaz against Kilmarnock a couple of days ago,
as good as Yilmaz has ever looked in a Rangers tap.
So hopefully Clement can continue to get a tune out of the new players that come in and the players that are already there.
Even with the squad now, like, I'd like to see where we'd be if we had forward players that can put the ball in the net. Like, just to add that,
exactly
just adding that to our game, it'd be interesting to see where we'd actually be because I think we're one of the lowest performers in terms of.
The thing is, we've got Seema as well that can score goals. He's obviously gone away. But we've got McCausland, who looks like he's a finisher as well. I didn't expect that from McCausland, to be honest, but I think he takes his goal really well against Kilmarnock.
He's definitely
composed, and he's been unbelievable since he came into the starting 11.
And the mad thing is, he's still, like, the word raw gets through a bit. Like, and he is, because he's what, 20-year-old. So, like, if this is the kind of player we're getting at 20-year-old, imagine, like, let's say Clement stays like a couple of years and the team's starting to, like, take a proper shape, and he's got his team and everybody, he's got his team, his system, and every player's understanding what the system is, what he wants to do, where he wants to take the club. Like, imagine a McCausland that was, like, well versed in what he's trying to do and the way he wants to use him, because they knew.
Oh, he'll just get better under Clement.
100%. And I'd love to see the player he is once he's got that maturity level and experience level.
He's literally only been about probably 2 months now. Made his debut probably 2 months ago, which is, and he's scored in Europe, got his first domestic goal I think at the weekend. But I think it says a lot about Clement as well, because it would have been easy to, I don't know, maybe stick Cantwell out in the right, or
which Beale did a lot of the time.
Or put Lammers out in the right. I know Cantwell's maybe played there a bit, but look, McCausland come into the team and Clement has clearly been like, right, okay, you probably weren't expecting this, but you're good enough.
Right.
You're good enough to start. Right. So as long as he only improves and his performance level doesn't drop, I think he'll stay there.
At the end of the day, right, when Clement came in, we had a lack of quality wide players, because Beale wanted to play such a narrow formation that he wanted to play with 3 like central forward players, and that's the players we ended up signing. So when Clement came in, obviously he's kind of went, fuck, like having no wingers, like, and when you're that desperate for that wide play, turning into a player like McCausland is a massive risk. Not only a risk for Clement, but a risk for like McCausland himself, because at the end of the day that could make or break a player. Like, many players you've seen go into top clubs, like come through academies, come into a top club, and then
they get maybe 2 games
is gone,
and then everybody loses faith.
They get loaned out to a lower tiered side, and you know what I mean.
They just keep dropping down the divisions.
So fair play to McCausland. Like, he turned up when we needed him, when we were desperate for wide play, we were desperate to expand the pitch a wee bit in the way we play, and he stepped in, he stepped up, and you can't really grumble. Again, he reminds me a bit of, no exactly, but the way Kent used to be utilised in the team. And because how many times did you see Kent come in for the left hand side, he'd drive down the wing, cut in and try and make something happen. McCausland, how many times you see McCausland get the ball wide, drive down the wing, and then he'd cut inside, but Kent would usually release the ball then, try and make something happen. Whereas I feel like McCausland will take it inside, he'd look up and assess his options, and sometimes he'd think to himself, you know what, defender, centre back and a left back, or centre back and a right back, you know what, I'm just going to try and drive through the middle, see what happens.
We've needed that directness. I mean, obviously under Gerrard we've done the old, everybody was just rotating up the top, and we were talking about that at the start of the season as well under Beale, where it was like, who's playing striker, or what's going on in the front, the forward areas of the pitch, because everybody was everywhere and nobody was anywhere.
On steroids.
But he never got it right. It wasn't happening.
It was unleashed, like the kind of.
Whereas you see it sometimes now, like sometimes you'll go, oh wait, Seema and McCausland have switched wings.
But you know why now.
And it doesn't happen too much, because it felt like under Beale at the start of the season, all the forward players, they were just rotating. They weren't been effective.
Yep.
Whereas I think Seema, most of the times you'll find them on the left, McCausland, most of the times you'll find them, but sometimes they'll cross over. But the like Dessers, he'll stay mainly central as well, which I think has helped us on an attacking and offensive front. You know, we were talking as well like a couple of weeks ago about when the defence has got the ball or the midfield, they've got to know where the players are in front of them. You know what I mean? Because you don't always have the luxury to take a touch, get your head up. So you've got to roughly know where everybody is, and I think they've got a decent idea of that.
That's where the system comes in, because it doesn't matter if you're taking a touch or your back's to the opposition's goal and you're about to play a forward pass. It doesn't matter what player is where within that system. You just know, obviously through training and that, you know roughly where you want to, like, where your first instinct's going to take you. You know what I mean? And a lot of the time, especially in the Beale before that, and it still creeps in. I'd say it still creeps in. There's plenty of mistakes where a player will go on the ball, and Lammers is the worst for this. But the heat's down. They've not got a clue where they're going to play it. It's almost like a hot tatty, or it's either that or it's the other extreme where they'll take a touch, try to decide what they're trying to fucking do. Dessers is bad for that and all. The game against fucking Celtic's a prime example, where now I feel like other than your Dessers and your Lammers, we've got a team of players just starting to see like a lot quicker patterns of play, which we never had. Everything was slow, lethargic. Lundstrom was one of the worst in the team for slow and breaking up play.
Clear indication of what Clement's done. The change in Lundstrom since Beale left, he looks like a different player. Like a new signing, mate, in itself, because Lundstrom never kicked a ball at the start of the season, and now I'd arguably say he's one of the most important players in that team. You know what I mean? With Tavernier, obviously, who's chipping in with worldies left, right and centre, but John Lundstrom, he's got a new lease of life under Clement, so the guy's clearly doing something right, and I think Clement strikes me as the sort of, even just the wee things like when he makes a sub and the player comes off the pitch, he's just got a couple of words in his ear, management skills to the highest degree. You know what I mean? And it's not just this like managing a team of players. You can only put 11 on the park. You're always got to have 5 or 6 subs. You know what I mean? How do you keep everybody happy? Well, you have a word with them before they go into the park, when they come off. You say the right things in the changing room. You manage to a high level, which clearly Clement has got. And I think that's how you're seeing things like McCausland coming through, Lundstrom having a new lease of life. Seema, I would say as well, is probably playing better under
Seema definitely. Yilmaz, I think obviously.
Yilmaz as
Tav's
well.
just Tav. I don't think any manager can fully change Tav. He's all like, tell me a time where he's seen Tav play any different than he does now.
You just get what you get after
You get what you get after Tav, and it works. Obviously defensive flaws are fair enough, but at the end of the day, when we've not got, Tav looks bad, so would any other fullback if they're playing a narrow formation and they've no winger there to help them. There was times like before we would see like Cifuentes, like central players floating out wide to help Tavernier out defensively. It just didn't work. It was a mess. Again, that rotation you were talking about, where it's just rotational on steroids. Whereas now I feel like if you've got the wide players, that are players there to kind of help Tav when the time's there today, so he drop back and help out. But the only that in terms of going forward and getting into the January, what we'd want, I would argue that the wide players, wingers, are going to be the sole focus of that January transfer window, because we've got a striker in. If we bring Shanklin in, brilliant. But at the same time, like Silva, Shanklin battling it out for what's inevitably going to be a one-man attack with 2 wide players.
And what is the script with Seema? How long will be missing Seema when he goes away to the...
Depends how long it takes Senegal. Usually a tournament like that's like a month.
Right.
But obviously, if they get knocked out, I don't know what the format is exactly, but if they get knocked out earlier, then
That's
obviously
a
it comes
big
back
hit,
earlier.
isn't it? It's a big player for
100%.
us to
Because look
lose,
at the
because
goal.
again, he's been one of our most important players as
Aye.
well. I mean,
Like
the
the
effort he
Clement
puts
goal
in,
was
he's got the goal.
outstanding, man.
That's
Shoulder it and then turn
unbelievable.
round and batter it.
To have the
It's
confidence to just
outstanding, man.
go, I've just got to hammer this man right into that bag.
And it's a
Unbelievable.
shame too, because obviously he's only on loan, and then when we get to the summer, when that runs out, I don't think we've got an option to buy on him. I might be wrong. I don't know if MD knows we've got an option to buy, but Brighton aren't going to want a cheap fee for Seema.
No.
I don't think, and it's just down to whether Rangers either have the negotiation skill to knock that price down, or if Brighton are.
But this has
willing
been
to
a
knock
problem in the
price down
past,
anyway.
isn't it? With you've got let's say you've got a Seema there on loan, right? And he's doing a job for us the new, but if you're no thinking 2 steps ahead and you don't get another good left wing in the building at January or set up for the summer, Seema goes and then you're sort of scrambling to try and fill his, but we don't want to be in that situation, because I think it's cost us too many times.
Well,
that's what's left us so high and dry out in the right flank, you know what I mean? We've no had MD in that position for
Well, as well, 'cause
quite some time.
in terms of depth now, like whoever starts out wide the now, it's cemented. Like you've got Seema McCausland, right? Because out with that we've got Matondo, who I've no seen. I know he's not played that much, but when he does play, I've not seen a performance out of him in a long time. And
He obviously had that spell before he got injured where he looked really good, but again, that's all we've seen off him.
all we've seen off him, and obviously Scott Wright, who the club have basically, he was rumoured to be going to Turkey. Like the club have said, like he's like.
He was already on the flight, was he?
He was already on the flight. But at the end of the day, he's no somebody. I know for a fact he's no somebody that Clement can say, oh, I know how to use him and where to put him in. I just don't think he's the right fit for us anymore. So we've got 2 options that could potentially leave either now, if MD buys him, that is, or at the end of the season. Obviously, Barisic is another one. At the end of the season, he'll be gone. Lundstrom's only got a year on his contract. It's a debate whether he's going to stay or whether he's going to go. I personally, I like the new Lundstrom.
Yeah.
But
it's whether you can hold that consistently, or if we did
exactly.
re-sign him for the next like 3
you know what
years
it's
or something
like.
like
You
that.
end up giving somebody a contract extension, and they go back to. How many times have we gave somebody a contract extension? Even McGregor for me stayed on possibly a year too many.
And the Lundstrom problem's no as bad, because I think you've got a Raskin in there that can come in and probably do the same job as Lundstrom and probably do it better. He's younger. He's got a lot more potential upside in terms of you've got to get more years out of him, and you might be able to sell him on.
Bear in mind, like Lundstrom's performance against Celtic, I don't know what MD else, but I just, there's a lot of players I didn't rate in that performance against Celtic, but I don't think Lundstrom didn't. I don't feel like he had control of that middle of the park. Like I think yet again in another old firm, I think Celtic's midfield were allowed to almost run riot a wee bit and take control of the game, especially Callum McGregor. He was able to take control of the game, and like obviously Cantwell was put in the park to try and nullify that. Didn't come up with the goods. Like, yet again, if we move on to Cantwell, a lot of the times he's like in the big games. I don't feel like I feel like we miss him.
You're left lacking a lot of the
You're
times.
left lacking a lot of the time, and to be honest, if I look back on even performances against weird teams, I've no saw the same Cantwell that I seen where he was fresh in the door, and you seen the way he played, and he was one of our most creative players, and everybody thought he's got the most potential. Obviously after that, like he's getting better at it, but getting half.
That's how I said in the last video, mate. Because I thought Cantwell he played well at the weekend as well, but I said I'm expecting, if he's going to be a true success at Rangers, I'm expecting a big second half of the season for him. I think he's still got a lot. He does have a lot of untapped potential. I said that in the last video, but for me, again, I'm expecting him to take it up a level or two.
You know what annoys me?
Not just in the odd
most?
game as well.
You know what annoys me the most? And he done it in the Kilmarnock game. He done it in the Celtic game. But when Cantwell loses that ball, you just kind of see him jog away.
Sometimes
He'll know.
jog,
you see other players in the team,
which is fucking very frustrating.
See when you fuck up and you lose the ball, you get the ball taken off you, and you burst your arse to try and get that ball back as quick as you can. But you don't get that if you can't.
Eye, especially when it comes for maybe your flair player who's a bit kind of arrogant and that, and sometimes they throw in the towel. it's really.
But that's just now. I wish I could shoot. If I can find the clip, I'd show it. If you don't see the clip, I never found it.
No, but I think folk will know what you're talking about. I think he's done it
so many times,
occasions.
And it's so annoying because although when you're playing against what we're playing against domestically, especially against Celtic as well, when you lose that ball, it's different in Europe for some reason because a lot of teams I feel like still sit within their system, so when they gain possession of the ball, they still want to go and play the way they play, whereas here it's solely focused on hitting you on the counter. So when your main aim is to make sure you're playing with purpose. To me, Cantwell taking the ball and trying to skin a player and losing it and then like kind of jogging away or kind of going, you know what I mean, and busting his ass to get back to it. That actually, it doesn't realise how vulnerable that leaves us, because when we're playing so high up the pitch, and we've seen it, that Milovski done it against us. They get a hold of the ball, played it right through the middle.
You know what I mean?
No,
Clement,
100%.
but my worry is that Cantwell does it one too many times, and Clement just has enough of it and just benches him. Which if he does do one, he deserves to be benched. But I hope it doesn't get to that, and I hope that in the second half of the season he does, like I say, take it up a couple of levels, give us more goals, just give us more overall, to be honest. Again, I think it's been hard. See if we can go through the second half of the season with like a solid starting 11. Limit the injuries, have a core of our team that's there week in and week out. That can
be supplemented with players.
Supplemented, but no replaced every other week because folk are out injured. Or we need a solid structure to our team, and I think we're in for a decent second half of the season if we can do that. You know what I mean? Obviously, there'll be new additions in the door. One of them has already been announced, obviously, and had a wee 10-minute spell, Silva. We don't know who else to expect. Obviously, we know what would be ideal. First and foremost, I think, obviously, somebody that's got to score goals. Don't care what else he can do, to be honest. Just score some goals. But I think, for what's success for you, obviously, in the second half of the season?
I genuinely think with the position we're in, when we're 2 games in hand, we're like a couple of points away, I see no in the way Celtic are playing the new and what we've seen for them so far. Success for me would be to press them and eventually win the league. As a fan, the bar needs to be up there. Like you need to smell blood and you need to just go for it. Like, so for me, failure would be not winning the league. And I know it's Clement's first season, but at the end of the day, we smell blood. We see it. Like, you'd be as well going for it.
Having said that, though, I completely agree. I've got a few kind of points in my head. So I think, depending on the draw in Europe, depending on who you get, I think if you get a favourable draw, then advance to the next stage. Obviously, that's got to be
financially. It's you need to.
But again, you could get hit with an absolutely brutal draw and no expect to win. So depending on who you get drawn against, I think a win should be not expected, but we could go right. We've got a chance. Whereas we might get drawn against one of the better teams and think...
Which, to be fair, we've done it before. We put we scud at Dortmund, Leipzig.
But it's not an expectation, to be honest, because I think anything extra in Europe this year, well, going forward, is a bonus, because I didn't expect us to be in this situation. So that's a bonus for me. I want a Scottish Cup final, right? Obviously you want to win it, but first and foremost, get to the final. That's the objective. I think another objective that's probably the most important. Now, obviously everything needs to go right round about this as well, but we must win the Old Firm at Ibrox. I don't think there's any debate around that. And now, obviously, I mean, we always go into the Old Firm wanting to win, right? But nah, we've lost the first two in the first half, and I think
especially when the difference is 2 points. Like, if you keep that difference at 2 points,
we must win that.
Aye.
There's no excuses of having an off day or this happening or you know what anything can happen in a game of football. You know what I mean? You're winning 1-0 in the 96th minute and then somebody makes a daft mistake and then all of a sudden it's one each. There's no room for that, man. We need to go. They need to come to Ibrox. And we need to make sure that we win.
That get the 3 points.
Like I say, obviously, if everything goes right round about that, then you could be in with the chance of winning the league. But we need to fucking beat them at Ibrox.
If Clement continues his form against the more like bread and butter teams, like the weird teams in the league, if he continues that form, then obviously it makes the old firms so much more
and
important.
Aberdeen, we better not drop another point to Aberdeen this season. I'm telling you, they're in the fucking relegation battle. I think we've been the only points they've picked up all season.
5 points they've had off
crazy,
like that.
Crazy. They better not take that. They're another objective. So hopefully advance in Europe, win the old firm at Ibrox, get to a Scottish Cup final, and hopefully I think we certainly can compete for the league. We can, but like we need a solid foundation to our team. So we're getting performances week in.
Depending on the way it's done, that's the most important thing, because if you lose the league you can be forgiven. Clement specifically can be forgiven if it's highly competitive and we're seeing performances week in, week out. Because
let's be honest, we're the underdogs now. You can't be going saying, we need to win the league. Celtic are clearly the favourites. They've got to be in any reasonable person's eyes. It's a miracle that we're still in it, considering the beat us in both old firms, you know what I mean? So we're pushed our luck so far. That's why I'm saying we must win that next old firm at Ibrox.
The thing is, when I say he can be forgiven for like losing the league narrowly, like at the same time he'll never be forgiven. Like, all fans want to win the league, but at the end of the day, if you've got a performance in there, you get 3 things. You've got a performance, you've got a style of play, and the players have got develop the right attitude to every single game. Again, it softens the blow, because you're like, well, that was brilliant. All we've got to do, we'll come back next year. We'll make some more tweaks. We'll come back again stronger next year. But we know our best 11. We know our style of play. We know what we want to supplement. How we're going to make this happen. So
the league seems even more important this year because of the whole restructuring of the European football and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because which I think they're rumoured to be going back to the old format.
Is that right? Rumoured, like I don't.
Regardless, it just makes life easier in terms of like qualification into Europe. If you just win the league, you know what I mean. It makes it easier, and it's also just worth the pain of what we went through at the start of the season. If we come out here victorious, you know how good the League Cup victory felt, you know what I mean, to get the first one out the bag. So win the first one, win the last one. That's what I'm looking for, to be honest.
So if you've enjoyed the podcast, make sure you subscribe. Also, the BlueSea channel memberships are there. The link down to that is in the description. Helps. With your help, we can invest a wee bit more back into the content, make the content better for you lot. Said the link to that down in the description next to our socials. We'll see you next time.